What's going on, guys? Today I'll be taking a look at Starfield's new beta update, which adds DLSS, frame generation, and DLAA. This video will mostly focus on NVIDIA, so I'll be using my RTX 4090, and I'll make a follow-up video focusing on Radeon using a 7900 XTX, and then we'll compare the two as well. Mainly what I want to take a look at is the performance improvements that have been made comparing the current version of the game with the beta version of the game that adds DLSS as well. So from what I've noticed here, the improvements aren't just for NVIDIA users, because they seem to have improved CPU utilization as well. That's something that Radeon users will benefit from as well. So it's a good update all around. Let's dive in and take a look at 4090 first, and then we'll move on with the other GPUs. So let's go through our settings here first, and this is the menu for the beta version of the game, and as you can see here we have DLSS, frame gen, and NVIDIA Reflex added natively, and you have all the usual presets if you cycle through them, including DLAA for that nice anti-aliasing. So we're going to take a look at New Atlantis first, because it's a well-known CPU demanding area, and you can see right away we have around a 15% uplift in performance, which is really good. Good job, Bethesda. So when Todd Howard came on TV and said that the game was optimized a little while ago, he was full of shit. But we already knew that. But anyways, joking aside, they seem to have done a pretty good job here with the CPU utilization, it seems, because 50% performance uplift, it's actually nothing to scoff at. That's almost like a whole GPU tier, but it's coming due to CPU utilization for the most part. If you've seen any of my previous Starfield videos that I've made, which is many, in the past, I've made this same exact route through New Atlantis, and the reason why I'm doing it here as well is that if I wanted to, I could go back and look and see what the performance was like in older versions of the game and compare it to how far we've come, essentially. But yeah, that's mainly the reason why, and it's also a good representation of the area and CPU utilization in general. Now what I'm going to do as well is we're going to go through this run again, but I'm going to use FSR for the current version of the game that doesn't have DLSS. We're going to reduce the resolution scale to 50%, so FSR performance, and then on the beta version of the game we're going to use DLSS set to 50% as well, and then we can see what the differences are between the two. Okay, so this one I find a little bit confusing, with FSR 50% on the left and DLSS 50% on the right, essentially DLSS performance. The frames per second is relatively the same, but one thing I notice is that on the left side it's stuck at 120. Now I don't know if that's got something to do with my screen being 120 Hertz, but I have no VSync enabled or anything like that. On the right, however, we are going above that, hit 130-ish, but that's not the strange part about this whole thing. Essentially, if you look at the CPU and GPU utilization, it's much higher on the beta version of the game, and that's kind of confusing. I'm not sure what to make of that. I mean, I can assume that maybe perhaps the DLSS upscaling probably requires a bit more out of the GPU than FSR. I don't know. I have never seen this before, but it is very noticeably higher, right? I mean, we have CPU utilization in the 50s on the current version of the game, and then in the 80s on the beta version of the game, and then GPU utilization is also much higher on the beta version of the game, which is to be expected with higher FPS, right? But the FPS isn't higher all the time. Sometimes it's less and sometimes it's slightly above, so that kind of doesn't add up for me, and I'm really not sure why I'm seeing the metrics that I'm seeing. But if you guys have any thoughts or any ideas of what it could be, leave it in the comment section below. I would like to hear about it. But anyway, yeah, this is a strange one for me. So it is what it is, though. That's kind of why I do these things, so that we can kind of look at things and discuss them. But enough of New Atlantis. Let's jump into the next scene. There's a total of 3 areas that I want to look at. In this next scene, I've gone to a live planet with trees and forests and foliage, so these planets tend to be quite demanding depending on the type of planet. Some of them have heavier forests, but I would say this is a good representation. And again, we're seeing around 10 to 15% increase in performance, so better CPU and GPU utilization, it seems, which is what we saw in the last scene in New Atlantis. So we saw a pretty good uplift in performance. We're not going to take a look at FSR and DLSS here. I might make a separate video looking at the whole image quality. I've done many videos on DLSS and FSR already in this game. That was the modded version, so... And again, this is still a beta, so it's not technically like fully representative of the final product. I might make a separate video that focuses more on the image quality part of it and frame generation and all that. So this one I wanted to mainly see what the performance improvements are between current version and the beta version. We're going to take a look at a little bit of combat here, and then we'll go on to the next and final scene and kind of wrap this video up.
Are you prepared to die?
So this will be the last area that we look at. I have gone to the Hope Tech headquarters where they build ships. So it's a giant shipyard. Pretty cool area, actually. There's a few missions in this area to do, but anyway, I digress. Looking at the performance, we're essentially seeing the same thing here, around 15% uplift in performance, which is great. And I also recorded some FSR and DLSS footage here as well that I wanted to show, essentially like we did in New Atlantis. So 50% resolution scale FSR on the left and 50% DLSS performance on the right. And again, it's going to be that similar strange behavior that we see in New Atlantis, right? Where the FPS is higher, can be higher, but it's usually around the same, sometimes even less. But CPU and GPU utilization is quite a bit higher on the beta version. So that is something that I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on with that. But I mean, overall, this is a very good update. Essentially, we're getting very good performance uplift with this beta update. And if you're an NVIDIA user, you get native DLSS, frame generation, and all that stuff, all that support, which is great because, you know, previously you had to rely on mods, and the mods did a great job, don't get me wrong, but you know, game updates had the potential to break things, and frame generation, at least when I was playing the game a lot, used to cause crashes for me quite frequently. So it's good that we have this. It's a step in the right direction for Bethesda, obviously, but I'll be looking at the 7900 XTX next, and we'll see what the performance is like there, and then I'll make another video comparing the 7900 XTX with the 4090 and see how far we've come. But that'll be it for me, guys. I want to thank you for watching this video. Give it a like if you like the video, and if you want to see more content like this, you can subscribe. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye.